All right, how's that? Look, that's better. Yay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, bring to you nerd news that has happened over the past week. In this case, the past 2 weeks. We did not have a show last Tuesday. Um, that was because I had a death in the family and I was not in the state. So, um, I apologize for not having an opportunity to bring you that news last week, but we're going to make up for it this week. And unfortunately, one of the primary news topics of last week has had more people join the category. Let's put it that way. We have three, and we're going to start the news show in a little bit when we do. Three in memoria for three people in the nerd community that have passed away. Before we get to that, I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, a first-person shooter on Facebook and Instagram as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, Mastodon, Burley Adopter, no underscore, and Burley Adopter on Hive as well, because who knows how long Twitter's going to be around. Before we get into the news, let me just give you a quick promo about the fact that we are streaming this on Twitch as well as Facebook Live and YouTube. And we certainly would love to have you follow us on Twitch if you have a Twitch account. That's the URL to go to right there, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. And again, if you have an account, please join us. Looking to build up our presence there to the extent that we have it on Facebook Live and YouTube, which are both really active. So before we get into the first in memoria, unfortunately, I think, and thank you, Gogo, for pointing this out that it's something that should be said, we also have to extend our condolences to the 5 people that were murdered at Club Q in Colorado Springs this week, and the 19 people, or well wishes to the 19 people that were all injured. I don't want to go into it in depth. You can certainly read all about it. The 22-year-old perpetrator is facing charges, has not been charged yet, but is facing charges, 5 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of what is called a bias-based murder, which is a hate crime. That's what they call it in Colorado. So if you look into it, it's pretty clear that he was a far-right radicalized young man who bought an AR-15. Yes, again, it's an AR-15, and went in and started shooting. I think it should be said that he was stopped by 2 unarmed people. One, an Army veteran who was there celebrating somebody's birthday, and sadly he was there with his daughter and his daughter's boyfriend, and the daughter's boyfriend was murdered. And the other person that jumped in to stop the shooter was a drag queen at the club. I don't know if it was a performer or if they were a performer. I haven't read that for sure, but they were identified as a person in drag. So, far right, take your, good guy with a gun and stuff it. 2 good people with, no weapons and just the willingness to jump in and risk their lives to save other people is what it took. So, our condolences to the families and friends of the 5 that were killed. And so we start then with our very first in memoriam. This happened a week and a half ago. We would have talked about this last Tuesday, so everybody knows about this. But the very sad news is that Kevin Conroy, the definitive voice of Batman, the voice actor best known for Batman, died at the age of 66 after a battle, apparently a fairly short battle with cancer. This is I believe, only time he's actually got a chance to play, Bruce Wayne, and that was in the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover a couple of years ago. in which he played obviously a version of Bruce Wayne that's rather like the version in the Kingdom Come short series of comics collected as an amazing graphic novel if you haven't read it. But everybody, knows him for this. He was started out his Batman career. He obviously had been an actor, before that, but started out his Batman career as a voice actor, as the voice of Batman and Bruce Wayne in Batman the Animated Series, and then just owned it from that point on. There have been others in other DC and Warner Brothers animated properties that have done good jobs. Jason O'Mara is one that comes to mind, but Kevin Conroy is it. Kevin Conroy was so it that Kevin Conroy also did the voice for all of the Arkham games. And it's very, very sad that he is no longer with us. He was, by all accounts, an absolutely wonderful human being. He is survived by his husband. He was, all his career, as far as I know, an out gay man, married to his husband for decades. Again, so I hate to harp on the whole far right thing, but all of you, I am justice, far right idiots. Your Batman is a gay, or was a gay man, and absolutely out and proud about it. So deal with that. It's just very, very sad. So many of my friends in the convention community have worked with him, or working with the convention, helped out, at his tables, various ways of interacting with him. And again, he was just a fantastic person. I've never heard a bad thing about him. Our condolences and our best wishes to all of his family, his friends, and of course all of the millions of fans around the world, myself included. I can't give myself best wishes and condolences, can I? I don't. Well, either way, Kevin Conroy, dead at 66, no longer with us. Rest in power, you gravelly voiced master of everything Batman. So then, this past week, we got another hammer blow. Jason David Frank died at the age of 49, and in initial reports, they didn't confirm it. Apparently, it has been confirmed. He committed suicide. And Jason David Frank, of course, from the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He was also a mixed martial artist. This is, of course, him as the Green Ranger, best known as Tommy the Green Ranger. This is from that very early time. So, this is what he looked like when he was first in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers universe. I was lucky enough to actually manage to interact with him a little bit and get photos of him at the very first Rhode Island Comic-Con. This is him on a panel with two of the other original Power Rangers. And unfortunately, I apologize to those two gentlemen. I do not remember their names. I'm not that much of a Power Rangers fan. But I had a picture, and unfortunately, it was just too blurry because he's too fast. Coming into the panel room, he came in with a flying sidekick. And I have the photo because it's such a great photo, but he's blurry. He was moving so quickly. And again, while I'm not necessarily, as I said, that much of a Power Rangers fan, many of my friends are absolutely devoted to the Power Rangers, or are huge fans. Um, love every bit of it, but particularly the original group. Um, and again, I have many friends in the convention community who have worked with him, done security detail for him at conventions, worked his table, and the same thing. Everybody really loved Jason David Frank. He was, by all accounts, a very funny guy, but also a very nice guy, treated everybody very well. And I have friends who are friends with him from working within the entertainment industry fairly recently who took this very hard. Um, and so to them, I offer big hugs to all of my friends who really knew him and are hurting even more than his fans are right now. But also condolences to his family and his friends and all of those millions of fans. This one hurts a lot of our team members here at Nerd Caliber. Again, more so than me. As I said, I wasn't that big a fan, but to all of them as well. Big hugs coming from me. And then just a couple of days ago, and I understand this one is a little bit more niche, but this is the science fiction author Greg Bear, and he passed away at the age of 71 just 2 days ago. Peacefully, according to his wife, in a Seattle area hospital. He apparently was a West Coaster all his life. Born in San Diego, moved to the Seattle area and fell in love with it. Greg Bear has written some of the most mind-bending science fiction I've ever read. These are two books in the Eon Eternity saga, and these books are, you'll get done reading these books and sit there for a while sort of staring off into space going, wow, what mind came up with that? He's probably best known, or maybe best known to a lot of people who aren't really niche science fiction readers, also as the writer of a trilogy about or set in the Halo universe. I think it's called the Forerunner Saga. But he wrote, 3 books about Halo. He's written a Star Wars book. He's written a Star Trek book. So for those people in those niche communities, they may know him as well. But he's more well known for writing, like one of his first big novels, Blood Music, which is amazing. He wrote. Well, the last book I read of his was it wasn't Moving Mars. It was a 1998 book. Give me a second here. I'm going to just look this up real quickly. It was Foundation in Chaos. Where, of course, he was one of 3 people who were asked to write expansions on to the Asimov's Foundation world, essentially prequels. But the last book of his that I read that was his own intellectual property was a book called Slant, which is kind of cyberpunk, except it's more biopunk. It's the idea that it's fairly near future, but the technology that has sort of created a cyberpunk-esque dystopian world, in addition to AI and so on, is more the incredible advances in biotechnology. And there are scenes in that book that would make body horror master David Cronenberg shudder. There are still times when, for some reason, I'll be seeing something that just happens to, for whatever reason, trigger a scene from that book, and I'll just like, oh, okay, wow, I don't want to remember that. So he is really an amazing writer. In his book Moving Mars, he has what I think is the best description probably the best prediction of what a transhuman experience would be like for someone who is not transhuman. Um, and this mostly dealing with how the transhuman people communicate. And it's more like after the singularity isn't going to be like an event horizon in the singularity of a black hole where you cannot know anything on either side of it if you're looking from one side to the other. It's more like an actual horizon, like an ocean horizon. You can see what's on the other side. You just don't really understand it very well, and you don't have a boat to be able to get there. And you know there's no way you're going to get there and eventually understand what's on that other side. And I think that's probably a much more accurate way that if any sort of singularity happens, that it'll be viewed by the people who are not on the other side of that transhuman experience. So yeah, if you haven't read Greg Bear's stuff, I would highly recommend it. Our condolences go out to his family, his friends, and all of his fans out there who love the amazing, mind-bending science fiction concepts that he wrote. And he was a good character writer, too. A lot of the characters in Moving Mars, while they are protagonists, aren't necessarily what you would call heroes. There's a lot of them that are really complex in their motivations. So he's a very good writer, was a very good writer, and he will be missed. All right. I think that's enough of that. And again, for anybody who's tuning in or for people who are going to watch this afterwards, sorry for starting the show with, 3 big downers. Luminous, welcome to the chat. Yes, sorry to hear we lost so many this month. Absolutely. But again, sorry to start it with a downer, but we usually start the shows whenever we have an In Memoriam, and this just happened to be 2 terrible weeks, as Luminous has pointed out. But let's move on to some better, more interesting news. About a month ago, we reported that there was trouble with the Blade movie franchise and that the guy that had been chosen to be the director, Bassam Tariq, had left. Had to do, apparently, with what I read, scheduling conflicts and not really any sort of internal difficulty. But on your right is the new director. They've already named Jan, and it's Demange, so I'm assuming that it's something that's pronounced like French and that the E is silent, so Demange is the way I'm going with that, and apologies if I've screwed that up. Has been signed on to direct it, and they've brought on a new writer too, Michael Starbury, who's going to be writing the script. So I haven't seen anything that Demange has done. He did a drama called 71 starring Jack O'Connell. He did a Matthew McConaughey crime drama called White Boy Rick. He was a director on a few episodes, I guess, of Lovecraft Country. And I loved Lovecraft Country. I thought it was brilliant writing, a brilliant adaptation of a great book, and wonderfully made in every aspect. The cast was fantastic, and the direction in almost all the episodes. Early on, there were a few that, they definitely got their legs very quickly. That bodes well in my mind that he has done that kind of work. Starbury has apparently written the Emmy-nominated, or for the Emmy-nominated limited series When They See Us, and is executive producing the limited series Colin in Black and White. I'm looking forward to this. The fact that it only took about a month to find these people tells me that it's not really that deeply in trouble. They did automatically, and we reported on this when Tariq left. They just sort of automatically bumped the date of the movie forward from its previous date. It's now coming out in 2024, September 6, 2024. So I'm still very much looking forward to it. Obviously starring Mahershala Ali, who's there on the right. I'm a huge fan of Mahershala Ali. He's a fantastic actor. First discovered him in the Luke Cage series on Netflix. We played Cottonmouth and just stole every scene he was in. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm glad they found the people that they need and they're back on track. So look forward to that. More news about that as it comes out, but September 6th of 2024 is when we will get to see this. Speaking of Marvel properties being worked on, this is, of course, somebody cosplaying as Silk. This is the amazing Vsauce cosplay on Instagram. This was taken at Empire State Comic Con in 2019 in Albany, New York. The news is that Sony, who obviously has the rights to all of the Spider people and Spider Universe, is working on developing a bunch of series, including one called Silk Spider Society, that will be done by Amazon Studios, will first appear on what is going to be called MGM Plus, which is the current Epix. Where obviously Amazon bought MGM, so there's that synergy there. And they will be rebranding Epix to MGM Plus at the beginning of this coming year. But it will then also stream on Amazon Prime Video. It doesn't say when that gap is, as far as, when it will be, whether it will be date or next day, as often happened with deals with one streamer and then say Hulu, or if it will be the entire run on Epix and then the entire run on Amazon Prime. We don't know. However, outside of North America, it will be streaming on Amazon Prime in 240 other countries solely, the ones that apparently don't have Epix or MGM Plus. So, if you've got a VPN, I'm not saying that you should pretend you're from Australia or wherever. VPNs are a good, safe thing for your internet browsing. Let's just put it that way. But again, we don't know when this will happen. We don't even know really what the sort of streaming deal between MGM Plus and Amazon Prime will be when it gets here. It's years away, clearly, because they literally just announced it. But this is apparently the first of what will be a bunch of spin-off Spider-Man content that will be developed under this, as they're putting it in Deadline, complicated web of rights. Ha ha ha. But they don't really say. So apparently this was part of the whole deal with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and are currently working on the 2 sequels. And they don't say what any other stories will be made, but they are saying that this is the first of many. So it'll be interesting to see how they do this. I don't know that they're going to be allowed to use Spider-Man or will use Spider-Man, but Silk, Cindy Moon's story, is deeply connected to Peter Parker. And so far, all of the Sony Spider-Verse stories, other than the animated Into the Spider-Verse, haven't dealt with Peter Parker at all. He's been not even really mentioned, just sort of hinted at as that, something happening in New York, in, Venom and its sequel and, God forbid, Morbius. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, probably years away because they just announced that it's happening. Apparently, I didn't realize this. Cindy Moon, it does exist in the Spider-Man movies, played by Tiffany Espenson. So, that is potentially confusing because the Spider-Man movies are Sony properties made by Marvel Studios. So, if Sony Television is making a different... Anyway. there's no telling whether or not any of this will even really be connected, frankly, which would be too bad, because Sony is clearly trying to do that with the end credit scenes or the mid credit scenes of Morbius. Done terribly, but yeah, we'll see. All right, the next bit of news is this is the wonderful Lindsay Aries, Lily the Bunny on pretty much all social media, cosplaying, of course, as Ciri from The Witcher 3. Amazing work here, including that fantastic 3D printed and then beautifully handcrafted Zirael sword from the end of the game. Spoiler? Maybe, I guess. But the news is that the Witcher 3's next-gen patch for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, yay me, PC player that I am, will be coming out December 14th, less than a month. 3 weeks from now, we'll get to see this next-gen patch, which won't necessarily affect things on the PC that greatly. If you play The Witcher 3 and you've probably already downloaded all of the 4K textures and the enhanced mods for better graphics and so on, as I have, this is essentially going to make the consoles come up to that level. But there will be new content. And they have promised that some of that new content will be reflective of design choices from the Netflix series, which is a really weird time to do that. Does that mean in a couple of years they're going to be putting out a Liam Hemsworth update patch? Anyway, but the implication in here is that there will be more additional content. Now, whether that is them adding back in some of the quests, the side quests that were taken out because they either couldn't make them function properly or they were just too distracting from the main quest line, which is something that people have speculated, or all new content that is based on the Witcher Netflix series. Other than just, new skins, making somebody look like Henry Cavill, etc. I don't know. But we'll all get to find out on December 14th. Assuming you have a PS5, an Xbox Series X or S, or you have the PC game. It will be a completely free update for those of us that own the game. So I'm very excited about this. I think I've played through The Witcher 3 4 times now, trying to get every single one of the endings. And it is, in my opinion, the best RPG, action RPG, fantasy RPG ever made. Hands down. Nothing even close. So I'm very much looking forward to this. That will be a great Christmas present, a free Christmas present, in my case, the best kind, from the wonderful folks at CD Projekt Red. And coming into our last story, this is an image from the latest Disney special, The Tale of Two Bobs. That is not what this exactly is, of course. These are, on your left is former longtime Disney CEO Bob Iger. On your right is the person that replaced him for the last 2 years, Disney CEO Bob Chapek, who is now himself a former Disney CEO, as in what is apparently a very surprising coup. Bob Iger came out of retirement, came back to become CEO of Disney once again, and Chapek was handed his hat and sent to the door. There's no other way to describe it. None of the releases that have come out about this from anybody, from Disney, from Iger, have quotes from Chapek. He is, I mean, there are a lot of glad-handing quotes from Iger and from other Disney executives talking about, how wonderful Bob was and so on. If he was that wonderful, you would have given him an opportunity to say something. And apparently he wasn't given that. And from what I understand, this happened Sunday night. Now, there's an awful lot. The reason Chapek was handed his hat ultimately was Disney missed Wall Street and analyst projections for their profitability in their most recent quarterly filings by a lot. And just this last week or 2 weeks ago at the analyst conference call for the quarterly filings, apparently Chapek, I don't know, glad-handed it isn't the right word. It certainly in the eyes of many, many people didn't seem to indicate it was as big a problem as they thought it was. He handed all questions about Disney finances to his CFO, and then went on to talk about all the wonderful things that were going on in the theme parks with new rides and so on. He came from the head of the theme park division into the CEO chair. But his problems went back way before then. Obviously, if you remember, he was the one that basically started the whole dust-up with Scarlett Johansson. She filed a lawsuit about the distribution of Black Widow, but he came out apparently without vetting this with anybody in Disney public relations and dumped all over her about, the horror of suing somebody for money over the distribution during these horrible COVID times. It was just, he got raked over the coals for that. And rightly so. And then, of course, his whole handling of the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. Iger from retirement came out and said it was a horrible bill. And then, eventually Chapek made a statement saying to the effect, we don't get involved in this sort of politics. And then people immediately turned right around and posted all of the Disney donations to state legislatures, including the people that wrote and sponsored that bill. So he's put his foot in his mouth a lot. What finally did it was when he put his foot in his mouth during a vital financial conference call. So there are people if you're interested in that, there are articles that go way more in depth about that, and they're really good, and go read those. The thing that is going to be important to us nerds is the fact that Chapek, when he came in, one of the first things he did is he unified all of the decisions on how to distribute any kind of entertainment property that Disney made under a single division, which goes by DMED. Come on. Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution. And he put one of his top lieutenants, Kareem Daniel, in charge of that as the chairman of that entire unit. Somebody who, according to reports now after the fact, had no experience in media distribution deals. That was a huge change from the way it used to be under Iger. The unit, the creators that were making the property, the producers of that property, and the unit that it was in had mostly the say on how it got distributed. And usually that was generally made before they even started. We're making a series for. We're making a movie that will, be a big tentpole movie. We're making a home distribution movie. All made in advance and that, by the creators and the producers at that level. With this DMED, that all went away. This one unit made every decision. Somebody could have said, yeah, we're going to make this for, big theatrical release, and the DMED unit could have said, this is going to go on Disney Plus. In the roughly 24 hours, 36 hours since he's been the new CEO, Iger has fired Daniel and completely eliminated the DMED unit. rolling everything back to the way it was when he was CEO before. The creators and the producers and the unit that is being worked on will be the ones to decide where this gets distributed, and it's probably going to be made before they even start working on it, because they have an idea of what's the right place to put this level of creative work. What that means for us going forward, unfortunately, I don't think we have enough information. Remember, Chapek took over right about the time that COVID hit. So all of the decisions about where to distribute content, either on Disney Plus or in theaters or in the short-lived premium access thing that Disney did, where you could pay a lot more money and see it same day, that's probably all gone. Those decisions will be made at the smaller level. Now, I don't imagine that that's going to change anything about The Mandalorian or any of the series that are going on there, about any of the Marvel Studios work on Disney Plus. That's pretty well, fleshed out. And frankly, I don't know that Feige ever compromised on where he wanted stuff to go because the DMED unit said so. But that could be the case. We could see some big changes coming forward in the nature of some of the content that's being produced. Now, if it's not already in production, they may change Armor Wars from a series to a movie. Who knows? And again, I don't know if that was their initial decision and it was changed because Kareem Daniel and that DMED unit decided that it needed to be something else. Then they're probably going to go back to what they originally had in mind if they haven't already started production. So I would not be surprised at all to see some changes coming forward in the nature of what a particular piece of property that's already been announced, Ahsoka, the series, any of the Star Wars movies that are currently in production, if any of those were originally planned to be something else, under Iger again now, they're probably going to go back to what they were. So there could be announcements coming out in the next few weeks about big changes to Lucasfilm and to Marvel Studios content through Disney. Or it could be nothing. I mean, again, I really have a hard time envisioning Kevin Feige listening to anybody who's saying, no, you've got to distribute that this way, and going, no, this is not going to happen. But Chapek was his boss, and I don't know that, I haven't heard anything about there being any fights between them, so who knows? I would bet dollars to donuts that we will get to see, or we will start to see, some sort of changes to things that are planned for upcoming Star Wars content, upcoming MCU content, as to where they're going to go and what the nature of the actual intellectual property will be. To what extent that will be, I don't know. I'm guessing it's probably going to be minor. But it probably will happen. I don't think you're going to see any sort of big drawback in any of these properties because of the fact that Disney so drastically missed its numbers. You might. I mean, they have to correct the ship somehow. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to be... no. If they cancel a lot of stuff in Phase 5 and 6 in the MCU, that's going to really hurt them in the long run. Luminous, Disney has had a lot of leadership drama over the past decades. I imagine Iger will not stay long given his age. Yeah, he is not a spring chicken. He has said he was absolutely enjoying his retirement. He was very happy to be home with his family, and made it sound very much like he's coming back. His current deal is just for 2 years, Luminous. But you have to remember that he was supposed to have retired years and years before they finally decided to give the job to Chapek. And he just kept putting it off because they couldn't find anybody to replace him. So we'll see whether or not, if he does have a 2-year time limit, if he's just said, that's it, you find somebody in 2 years, I'm out, whatever. His previous behavior doesn't indicate that will be the case. But yeah, but also, as you say, he is not a young person, 77, I think. So he is probably not interested in staying on as CEO if he was honest when he was saying how much he was enjoying his retirement. So stay tuned for, I'm almost sure over the course of the next few weeks through, the holidays, announcements about some big changes in the nature of the films and series that we're all already looking forward to from those nerd properties that we love that are under the control of Disney. And having said that, folks, that is it. That is our show for tonight. Thank you, Luminous, for joining me in the chat. Thank you, and everybody else who was watching and lurking in the shadows. That's absolutely fine. That's cool. We will end with, as we usually do, our Patreon call to action. If you are of a mind to, go visit our Patreon page there, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. We would love to have you be a patron if you do that sort of thing. Helps us get to more cons. We are currently working on Aresia in January here in Boston. We are putting together our team for, we will definitely be at KatsuCon. I will probably be at Aresia. I will probably not be at KatsuCon, but we will have team members there. Before that, PAX Unplugged is coming right up, and we will have a team at PAX Unplugged. So enjoy that. Oh, dang it. I wish I'd thought of that. Luminous, I guess Elizabeth Holmes is unavailable to take the Disney CEO job. It depends on how many of the years she actually serves. If Iger is out in 2 years, she may get out in... No, she's not going to get out in a year and a half. It's not going to happen. Good one, Luminous. Darn it. On that note, you get the last joke. Thank you, everybody. Please stay safe out there. It's getting colder, so stay safe from the winter cold. Stay safe from winter diseases and the COVID, of course. We'll see you at an upcoming con. We'll see you at an upcoming show next week. Good night, and bye-bye.